News Center Maine is partnering with the Maine-Monitor to bring you some of the reporting being done by journalists at the nonprofit independent publication. We'll be featuring one of their stories each Monday. This month, a man died after ramming his truck into a Michigan synagogue in an apparent anti-Semitic attack. Jewish organizations in Maine say the incident serves as a reminder of safety concerns at houses of worship. Now, an interfaith group is pushing for a new state funding mechanism to support security upgrades at nonprofits, including religious organizations. Here to talk more about that is Sean Scott. Sean, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. So what have you heard from faith leaders across the state about safety concerns within their congregations?
Yeah, so I started connecting with faith leaders before the Michigan synagogue attack happened. And I heard from across the board, Jewish organizations, Muslim leader, Buddhist organizations, that all of these different faith groups in Maine have experienced bouts of ignorance or hate crimes or vandalism in the past few years in particular. So there are safety concerns within the state and concerns that there might be religiously motivated bias incidents. The FBI, their hate crime statistics over the past 5 years or so have actually shown that the number of hate crimes that are motivated by religious biases has made up a bigger portion of all hate crimes each year. And that is especially tied to in 2023 when the Israel-Hamas war began. That saw, I believe, a 60% increase in both anti-Jewish and anti-Islamic hate crimes that year. In Maine, what this means on the ground is for a couple of the Jewish organizations that I spoke to, they have congregants who may be afraid to go into worship. They're holding more events online now. They may hire armed security for certain events. So there is just like this culture of, or not culture of fear, but there are safety concerns at houses of worship, particularly Jewish organizations, but Protestant, Catholic, Muslim as well.
Sounds like some are already taking steps. What types of upgrades are organizations making to address their safety concerns, and how have they funded these upgrades?
Yeah, so security upgrades are expensive. The main mechanism for funding those beyond private funding is the federal government. In 2004, they created the Federal Nonprofit Security Grant Program that allows organizations to apply for funding for security enhancements. I believe there's a $200,000 cap per organization, and it's for all nonprofits, but houses of worship in particular have gotten a lot of the funding in the past. So in Maine, what that means is since 2020, about 40 organizations have gotten about $8 million in that funding to make enhancements. I spoke to Temple Shalom, Crosspoint Church, which is an evangelical church in Bangor, the Jewish Community Alliance. They've all made upgrades through that money, including fencing, getting bollards around the building, bullet-resistant glass. I think the most common upgrades that I heard were security cameras and alarm systems, as well as doorway enhancements, just to try and physically improve the building, but there's also hiring private security for bigger events. One of the problems with funding these things, though, is Temple Shalom in Auburn I spoke to, and they said in the past year in particular under the Trump administration, this funding mechanism is you pay it and you get reimbursed. And typically that's about a 60-day gap, and they said that's extended to 120 or more days with little communication about when the funding will actually get to them. So they've had to take on smaller projects so that it's less of a risk or a liability to them. And there are elements that the federal funding can't cover. It's very particular about hiring public safety personnel, which is something that leaders in the state that I spoke to have said would be one of the most effective deterrents, is just having a marked police vehicle outside during large events.
Okay, well, Sean, thank you for joining us. And of course, there's a lot more to learn about this. You can read the full story and much more at the-maine-monitor.org.